Welcome to the Small Business Surgeon Podcast, the show where we dissect the businesses of top producers, examine their growth strategies, and share with you the bare bones of their success. I am your host, Samuel Smith, and I'm glad you're here. Let's operate. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to this week's episode of the Small Business Surgeon Podcast. And this is an episode, guys, I've been trying to put together for like 2 years. So getting this guy, it's like bottling an Irish mist. He is the Chief Happiness Officer over at Break Free Academy, the founding partner of Monumental Voice Media, and he is a dude with a smile so big you cannot help but be infected by it every time he rolls past. Please welcome to the show, Danny Galvez. Danny, welcome, sir.
Oh, Samuel Smith, you small business surgeon, you. I can't, I'm sorry. I feel that compulsion every time
I know.
English friends.
Dude, I thought I was going to do the intro in that voice so I would take that power away from you, but I let it go, didn't I?
No, I appreciate it. And it's great to see you. My last name, Galvez, is kind of a joke. It's a very off-color joke, but it's kind of one of those things. There's certain people that show up late, and my last name is Galvez, and I'm true to my name. It's in my DNA. There are some truths about humanity that exist, and I'm living that stereotype up. So,
What does Galvez mean? I don't know the
Gal-
stereotype. Help me out here.
oh, okay, yeah. So Galvez is a Spanish surname, and we have something in my family. I'm half Mexican. You wouldn't know that by my appearance. I'm very, very milky white because my mother is very, very Anglo. And looking at ancestry, I show up Irish, English, Scottish. Let me see where else.
I could see the Scotch and Irish in your beard there. Yeah.
I'm here, yeah, and I come in. My family came through the Iberian Peninsula, and we're Jewish, Russian. We're a good mix of everything. At least I am. So we have something called Mexican People Time, though, and that's where that comes from. It's like my cousins. I had my favorite cousin. I'd come to Houston to visit and say, "Hey, man, are you coming through? I'm in town," and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there in an hour." I was like, "Okay," and he would show up like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours later, sometimes three
Dude,
hours
that
later.
is definitely Mexican time. Oh my God. I'd forgotten about that. I
Yeah.
I used to run around with a little Mexican buddy, and he would do the exact same thing. Like, yeah, I'm on my way, and I'd be sitting there and be like 2 fucking hours later, and he'd finally show up.
Yeah, it's annoying. I mean, if you're flexible in time and you're as liberal as you say you are, then okay, you're going to be okay with those kinds of people. But
Hmm.
if you're very regimented, A-type personality, you like to check boxes and you're organized and you want things to happen promptly and on time, it will not happen. So ruin your world.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's the truth, man. So, dude, for those of the listeners that don't know who you are and aren't a part of the whole Break Free Academy ecosystem, dude, you've got such a crazy background story. But start us out of being a DJ and an events guy, and go from there. Give us a little background as to who you are, man.
yeah, no, absolutely. And again, thank you for having me on the show, and I appreciate you.
Only took 2 years, bro.
I know. That's how it goes. So hopefully, I'll make it worth the wait for you. But I got to tell you, I was raising a family with 5 children, and it was a military family. It was a blended family, and we didn't have a lot of resources to go to college or anything like that.
Right,
My
right.
parents would tell us, hey, listen, when you're 18, you're out of the house and you're on your own. If you want to go to college, great. Good luck. There's not going to be any resources for you.
Hmm.
Okay, great. No problem. I was ready. I was always a hard worker. So I went to college for a semester, got into some great schools of my own, cognizance, and my grades. They weren't the greatest, but I got in. And one was an engineering school, one was a poli-sci school up in Wisconsin.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And I went for a semester. I settled on a regular state school to study psychology because that's what you study when you don't know what you want to
That
major
is
in.
so true. That's so true. That's what I did that for pre-college. I did psychology and sociology because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And by the time I was finished with them, I knew I didn't want to do them.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But you know what? Looking back, it's probably one of the best things you can do because any and every business that you operate in, whether you work for a company, have a
Hmm.
boss, or you're an
Hmm.
entrepreneur or solopreneur, you are going to have to work with people and you have to understand the way they think. So,
Absolutely.
um, back to college, I went for a semester, realizing and woke up one night, hey, I'm paying for this. Do I want to stay here? You have a choice. There's that empowerment part, right? It's like you
Yeah.
actually own a choice. I dropped out and I'd made accommodations. I wanted to study singing, vocal performance. So I went through that process. I started playing piano and I had to audition for the men's choir at the neighboring college
Oh wow.
town. Yeah, so there's a lot that I did. I got to the place where that year we were supposed to go to the Viennese festival,
Hmm.
and I think President Clinton was in office or was to be there, and I was excited because nobody in my family had done anything, but I had also made the choir of 299 other men that
Hmm.
had auditioned as well. Again, financial strife kept me from moving forward. So I I was heartbroken and I was mad, but I was very determined. So I went home for about 6 months. I worked as a dairy manager, and I went back to my guidance counselor at high school,
Oh
and I
wow.
said, "Yeah, I did. It's a really interesting because at that time we didn't have as many options, but I went back to her because I knew I wanted to work with people. I knew I wanted to entertain. I just didn't know how, but I
Hmm.
knew I needed to have skills to actually get to that place where I could qualify to do both of those things. I just needed the opportunity
Right,
for
right.
people to know, hey, I got this drive and something in me that's pushing me for this. And she said, hey, here's a pamphlet. This is for Brown Institute. And it was in Minneapolis. It was a technical school for anybody in graphics, computer science, radio and television. And that's what I did. I auditioned for a scholarship because I didn't have any money.
Hmm.
And by the grace of God, Sam, I won the one scholarship they were giving away
What?
that year at school.
Dude, well done. Like,
Yeah.
why haven't we heard you sing? Like, what's going on here?
Um,
Like, come on,
you
man.
know, well, I've been out of practice, singing, using your voice as a muscle.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I really, I've suppressed it and I don't like it. But you know what I realized recently is that I really enjoy singing. It makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to give you anything today, but
Mm.
I will tell
It's
you
like
this.
gonna break
I'm
out Nessun Dorma, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I could do that. That's a lot of what we were singing.
No kidding.
Nessun dorma,
There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
dorma,
Ah,
io Yeah, I mean, I was in the thick of it,
I
Sam,
love it,
and
man.
I loved it. I'm talking to the point, when you can get the human soul to rattle at such a high vibration
Mm-hmm.
that you start excreting tears and you don't know why. That's at the level that I was carrying my energy into to singing. And so when I couldn't continue on that path, I was like, okay, I still have to use my voice. It's always been powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it had nothing to do with the ego. I think the ego and early, young adulthood, our minds play tricks on us.
Right.
And we're battling between the ego and who we think we should be and what society is throwing at us. And we're trying to battle through all the the splits and the ties and sexual identity and politics and you know upbringing. I was raised Catholic, so I was doing battle with views that didn't fit who I
Right.
was
Right.
spiritually, right? So I get through radio school. Right out of school, I land a job in a top rated market. It was in Minneapolis,
Mm-hmm.
and it usually doesn't happen. But I came in part time. I was doing music research, and I would call people and I'd play songs for them. And it was a country format at the time,
Right.
so I would play the Kenny Chesneys and the Tim McGraws, and I would sample audiences and
Mm-hmm.
their opinions, and I would report them to the music director. And I did that for probably about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I
How
quit.
how on earth did Billy Ray Cyrus make it through? Was
You
was
know,
that your fault?
no, I wish I could say that at that time I had short hair, but I did get to see him in concert. He was one of my first major concerts
No
that I got
kidding.
to see. Yes, it was great. I saw Chicago and some of those other bands, like
Mm-hmm.
legendary bands, Tony Tone, in the 90s. I got to see them. Even got to see Bruce Springsteen.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, during 4th of July. It was fantastic. But Billy Ray, I saw him at the end of an airstrip in Jacksonville, North Carolina. There were 17,000 people there, and I was probably less than 20 yards away from him. And I remember going, this guy's got tight jeans, a ripped shirt, and he's got a mullet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in awe because I thought he's getting paid to do that right there.
Yeah,
And
this. I think every guy wants, like, secretly, they want that look, and they want a 1977 Bandit Trans Am with T-tops, and they want a packet of cigarettes stuck up under their shirt sleeve, and they want a can of Natty Light in the drink holder. I think every single guy secretly wants that, you know?
you're right. I'm not gonna lie. I used to smoke too, so that was I used to roll my cigarettes up in there, and
Hmm.
um, it
I
was
mean,
fantastic.
Zach Sasser has a mullet worthy of a third gen Camaro, and I can't get him to drive one.
No, I know. You think he would?
I
He's
know,
he's a
right?
truck. Yeah, he loves trucks. He really loves trucks.
I know.
Um, I know I'm not. I like fast cars. I'm a Cadillac dude.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah,
CTSV kind of guy.
yeah, ATS,
Oh
ATS.
yeah.
I got the girl version of the Cadillac, but that thing zips around. It is, it's in and out of traffic. I love it because when I'm back and forth to Dallas for
Yeah,
Apex, man, it gets me where I need to go. I love it.
yeah.
So, my radio career was great. It was fantastic. It spanned about 17 years. I became a copywriter, producer, editor.
Can you do the
Um,
radio voice?
more, there's not really. So here's the secret, and this is something that people are probably making millions of, teaching people authenticity.
Right,
And
right.
I used to think, because back during that time in radio, people would be like, it's you know KDWB 101.3 KDWB, your home for hit music radio in Minneapolis,
Uh
and
huh.
that wasn't everybody's voice. The guy that I went to intern for sounded like this. He was like, welcome to 101.3 KDWB. My name is Tony Fly, and this is the Tony Fly radio show. And
Wow.
this guy was so over the top. At
Hmm.
the time that I went to intern for him, I was maybe 1 year and 2 jobs into my radio career. And he was wild. He was the number one DJ for 7 years running, nighttime DJ. And he dominated in the Twin Cities. People knew who he was. He came from Minneapolis and not Minneapolis, but New York
Right.
City. And it's amazing because this guy, they loved him like crazy there, and he was the right flavor. Prince would call him from time to time when we were in the studio, and
Wow.
they would invite him over. They sent a car for him one night and brought him to Paisley Park, and I really learned a lot from him. The number one thing I learned from him, though, I said, if you had one piece of advice, he's like, go where you're loved.
Mm.
I was like, what do you mean? I said, why didn't you stay in New York? Your family's there, your mom's there, your sisters. He's like, go where you're loved. He's like, that's the rule.
He's not wrong, dude. Like,
He's not.
hmm.
I stayed there for a year longer than I needed to. I think the first week I was there, he told me, he said, I listened to your tape. He goes, you're ready to go, man. He goes, you can go and get a job. I didn't have the belief in myself. And I felt like I needed more.
Right.
But it was great to have his name on my resume because I could take that to the next opportunity. And it was wonderful. I was able to understudy with somebody who was proven. He was number one, and I did something that less than 1% of the population anywhere in the United States was able to do.
I think
And
you've
I got
overestimated that percentage. It's probably 0.01 of a percent, bro. What you did was very very special, man. Don't sell that short.
it. Oh no, and I appreciate that. And you being a musician, Sam, you understand this very well.
Hmm.
Talent gets talent, talent sees talent, but sometimes talent on the come up, you don't know how good you are. So what do? We go to the people that we look up to, our
Hmm.
mentor.
Yep.
We almost go to battle with them because we want to see if we're better than them at that stage, right?
What is it, mate? You always want to be the best musician, and when you are, it's the best fit, and then when you're not, you're just like, oh, I got to go practice more. It's like being the top street racer and having somebody beat you, and then you go, man, I got to go get a faster car. It's the same thing in music, man. When you pick up licks and riffs from guys, you're like, man, I need to go practice more. You always want to be the best in the room.
You really do, and I think that's a secret for life too. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're husband, boyfriend, wife, mother, father, son, brother, cousin, employee, contractor, business owner. It doesn't matter. Human being,
Mm.
period. Constant improvement is going to get you a little bit further, even 1%. Like if you just do 1% more of the work, you're going to come out
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
100 times ahead of everybody, right?
Did I finish ahead of where I was yesterday? And like I tell everybody, you don't have to win every day, but if you can win 4 days out of 7, you won the week. Like, come on, man, that's good. That's better than you were doing, right? I
1
think,
million percent.
yeah, yeah. I think people hold themselves far too high on that standard, and they get beat themselves up if they slip. And I'm like, man, yeah, you slipped today, but look what you did for the last 25 days in a row. Come on, man, a slip's okay. So,
That's right. It's
hmm.
going to happen. As long as you don't make it an excuse or a reason to slip,
I know,
right?
right? Yeah.
Right? That's where it gets to be detrimental to a human being in their development.
I had to get rid of
So,
all the cake in the fridge. It's gone. No more cake.
You threw out the cake.
Throughout the cake. Throughout the cake.
Oh, no.
Dude,
Sorry.
there's still a fat kid that lives inside of me, and I have to beat him every day, and I beat him about 28 days out of the month now, so I'm doing pretty good. But it's a lot easier when there's no cupcakes in the house.
It's, and I agree with you too. It's amazing. Anything we do is training. So whether it be a job, in my case, I was able to last 17 years in radio, and I even did that in a fractional sense. But what I did was teach myself the ability to have a little bit at a time,
Hmm.
but still make the maximum impact so I could carry it to the next journey. In between, there might have been, catering jobs, restaurant jobs as a
Right,
bartender,
right, right.
host, and same thing with food, right? Right. I had a food attachment for a little bit, and I would say, listen, I got to stop with the sugar. It's
Hmm.
okay. Okay. Saturday night, I can have cheesecake or I can have wine or, in my 20s, there were no rules.
Right,
So
I know, right? What's up with that? Like,
you're like, I wake up skinny every day and looking sexy.
uh
I'm
huh.
20. Who cares? Right.
Now I'm 40 and bits are falling off me, and I don't know why I'm fat.
Yeah, I know. It's like I stared at the cake. I was just looking at it and it's like it attaches
Hmm.
itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been wonderful. My career took me into a place where, like most people, my case, I got to a place. I had a son at 25, and so I was a father pretty early,
Yeah.
and I was juggling radio career, my desires, wants, wishes, and dreams, and now I started putting limits on myself because now I had assumed this new identity, and I definitely wanted to be in his life.
Right, right, for
So
sure.
I stayed in one place for a long time. I stayed in Minneapolis area for about 7 years, 8 years. Between there and Wisconsin, worked at some radio stations, and did whatever I had to do to support myself. Built a prison, worked on a construction crew, drove a forklift and skid steer. So I wasn't afraid of hard work, but the money wasn't always there. Financial, there was always a
Right,
big
right.
cloud over me as a DJ, and I couldn't. It didn't make sense to me because I thought, man, I got all the fame, the glory, and the paycheck of an underpaid janitor, and
Well, yeah,
that's what
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
uh, But looking back at it now, so many years later, I go, wow, all I was doing was practicing for today.
Hey, man, I love that. That's just the
So,
right outlook to take. So,
yeah.
dude, how did you get to Texas? Or
Texas.
is that jumping too far forward?
No,
Like,
no, no, that's it. So I remember when we talk about at the end of my 7 year term in Minneapolis, I was living in a rental house, and I wasn't even working in radio at that time. I was working at two restaurants. I was working at an Italian restaurant where I
mhm.
worked. I met a guy named George Serra. He's a chef, and I would work nights there. And he taught me about wine, about being classy, about dressing appropriately as a young man,
Mhm.
about culture. He was married to one of the Marriott daughters,
Oh, wow.
and they had 7 children. Yeah, it was amazing. He was one of my mentors, and I had met him just after he had attempted to pull the trigger on himself.
Oh, wow.
Probably one of the most well-educated, well-studied, and well-traveled men I'd ever met in my life, and loved that guy like a dad. Um, and thankfully, he was there because I needed his guidance and his friendship at that point, and the tough lessons too. So I met him. I was working at a restaurant there, and then during the morning, I would work at a sports bar. So 9/11 comes, just waiting tables. I really have nothing holding me to Minneapolis except for my son, his mom. We had a very tumultuous relationship,
Right,
and
right.
I end up I'm holding my son in the living room, and I see the planes hitting the towers. I was awake that day. The painters were painting the house, getting ready for the new tenants to come in.
Isn't it funny how you just everybody remembers exactly where they were when they saw it or when they heard about it? It's just
Yeah,
one of those life moments.
I felt that panic. It was like, oh,
Hmm.
all my family was down in Houston. So
Hmm.
I said, you know what? We're going to Houston. I talked to my girlfriend at the time. She's like, yep. She's like, let's go. And we did. We left October 1st and got to Houston.
Wow.
And so that's when I got to Houston. I got to Texas. My father was born here. My great grandparents, my grandparents were living here for all of their lives for the
Right,
most
right.
part. After they got from Mexico, came over from Mexico.
We
Uh,
got here right around the same time then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been in, yeah, we're officially Texans now. You have to be here at least
Oh,
25 years.
you know what? I was just thinking about this the other day because Andy Frisella was talking about the border wall and Texas and things to come, and I thought, well, you know what? There were Smiths from England at the Alamo, so I'm down for Texas. Let's go.
I was going to say, and my curiosity too with natives though from other countries is how do you manage to keep your accent? Because you would think after so long that you would lose that.
Yeah. This isn't my native accent.
What is your native accent?
Well, it'd probably shock you if I switch back to how I normally talk. I mean, alt vowel sounds are much shorter. Words are contracted. You can tell with airs the way they drop like that. And so, yeah, it's very hard for people in America to understand a proper Yorkshire accent. So I don't really use it a lot because, just because of how fast I talk and of how contracted words are, it just makes it hard to understand what I'm on about. Anyhow, so yeah, that's actually how I really sound, and this is a put on voice that I've been putting on for like 20 fucking years, so people can understand me.
You must.
The minute I talk to my brother, the minute I talk to anyone from home, it switches back immediately.
That's amazing. So you talk very like you're from Yorkshire because I haven't studied many of the dialects in England,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So you're talking with like a posh type of Queen's English type of
yeah,
dialect. There's so many dialects. I mean, um, you can have the Cockney London accent, you can have the posh Southern accent, you can have the posh Northern accent, and like the difference between the two is, Bath has a short A and Bath has a long A. You see, there's all kinds of like regional accents because of how travel was within the country back when the accents developed. So there's very very distinct accents between regions. Manchester has a different accent from Liverpool. They're 30 miles away. Leeds has a different accent from York. They make the A sounds differently. Like local people can tell where somebody's from to within like a few miles. It's real.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so and then like it's when somebody says, "Can you do an American accent?" It's not really an American accent, though, is it? It's a Texan accent, or it's an East Texan accent, or it's a Mississippi accent, or whatever it is. So I do practice American dialects, but I'm not going to let one out on the show, man. I'm not there yet.
Oh, come on, just a little bit. I wasn't gonna sing. Let's hear one.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Put me on the spot now. I could be like a Methodist music minister.
Okay.
That's always a good one. Well, well, they said they was going to bring the casserole, but then Betty didn't bring it, and now there's no food.
That's good.
So
I
like,
always,
but they're all different.
yeah. Did you ever see the movie Sling Blade with Billy Bob Thornton?
I did not know.
Oh man. Okay,
Uh,
listen, that's a must watch. We got a long weekend coming up. You got to watch that.
okay,
Uh,
let me write that
here's
down. Sling Blade, right?
Sling Blade. Yeah, he plays a character in there, and he talks about mustard and biscuits. And he's just very, he very keeps to himself. Probably slightly autistic, but he's a very, very, very protective man and very violent man. But
Right,
he's
right.
he's
Man,
got a good spirit about him.
well,
So kind of talks like an East Texan. It's great. Yeah, I love it. I
I
love accent.
I understand that, son. I really
Yeah,
do. Now,
yeah, good. See, that's good, man. I love it.
skin that smoke wagon and throw down, boy.
There you go. Good. See,
See, I do
that's
practice
great,
that.
man.
There are a few phrases I've got down from the movies.
No, I love it, man. I love it. It's funny you start playing with voices, and that was the side of my career that I really loved. I spent a lot of time in studio and really practice, and I would
Mhm.
stay late at the radio stations and put in my time and practice. And
Right, right.
eventually, that led me to getting into. I was never like the big voice announcer, like Friday night we're gonna be going down, to the blah blah blah. It was
Sunday. The monster truck
yeah,
guy. Yeah.
those guys. Yeah, I used to call those guys the suckamapukas because they were more in love with hearing the sound of their voices. Suckamapuka, it's 75 and sunny, and they were more in love with the tone and resonance of their voice. Smoke a pack of cigarettes and be like, "It's sunny and 75. Yeah, I told her I was the one she's been waiting for." Right? And you know, like you sit there and you listen to people and you say, but that guy didn't say anything to me. I'm listening for substance.
Right.
I'm listening for true connection and content. And I was very good at that.
Mhm.
I would do storytelling type formats with the commercials that I would create, and the clients loved it. They were engaged. I liked using sound effects to really make that impact, or use pattern interrupts,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Like when the drummer stops drumming, everybody's like, "What the hell happened? Who turned off the electricity?"
It's
Right?
the bass solo. It's time to leave when the drummer stops.
That's right. The bass solo, yeah, yeah. I never see people get down going, "Oh yeah, that's some good
It's some
bass."
good
Like,
bass, man. Good
yeah,
bass.
you see that bass solo? That was wonderful. Um, yeah, that's one of those things that kind of that process led me into getting curious about audiobooks and things like that. So I move into a family dynamic. I have two more children. I get married. I'm settling down. I have a big house, a big backyard. I have a wife that's I overmarried when I got married, which was a wonderful thing. If you're single and you're going to get married, you might as well overmarry.
That means you
So
outkicked your coverage. Is that what you're saying?
I did, yeah. I don't know what happened. I think it was right time, right place for her, and she's like, "I need a baby right now, and you look good enough." So, it was. I think I was. I was a paper bag Danny for her. So, um, we had a couple of children, and I had to get serious about my career. I wasn't going to go back into radio.
Right.
So life got real, and I said, "I'm going to go into the mortgage industry." I learned that from the ground up. But at night, I started developing something for myself, and that's why I started doing voiceover work on various
Yes.
channels and then audiobooks. And I taught myself with the help of a guy named Bill DeWeese. He's out of Chicago, but he turned me onto that with his free YouTube content. The videos, you can learn
Hmm.
anything on YouTube,
Oh, I
right?
do. I do. Like every day. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
I it's it's been and you know this better than anybody because that's a lot. I mean, you know video, you know
Hmm.
like what it takes, where to find, great marketing ideas, and if you want to troubleshoot and figure something out, it's right there. But I learned that I amassed 40 audio titles to my name. A lot of them were erotic and romance.
You know that's exactly what I'm working on now. Thanks to our conversations between you and with Jeremy, that's exactly what I'm working on. Do you-
How are they going?
dude, I have everything set up, and I'll get to recording them and listen back to them. I'm just not quite sure yet. I'm still practicing, but I made all the accounts. I've got everything set up on Twitter and on Facebook and everything else. And I got a pseudonym. I got a pseudonym. I'm gonna type it in the chat, and you can decide whether you read it out or not. Because
Okay, let me see. I've got one of those too. Some of the books that I read were very controversial, or they were just things I wouldn't want to attach my name to. That's
right,
what it
right.
comes.
I don't want people to know that I'm reading erotic fiction, but there's so much market for it. It's so much fun. I like to sit. I like to narrate. I like to tell stories. For the longest time on Facebook, I did them for free. Just sat there and read stories on a night, and it's great practice with the accents, and that's why I practice the dialects and all that different stuff, so you can have transitions between characters. You see. Oh, he just
You
read
are
the name.
no, I had to look. I was pronouncing it in my head. Andy Kaminer.
Hmm.
Dude, that gets a prize. Listen, I
Yeah.
can't wait until you drop your book. You're gonna have to like let us all know because I'm gonna listen to those books. Andy Kaminer. That is a brilliant name. Um, here's mine. This is mine, but mine was a little more highbrow.
Augustine Poe. Yeah,
Oh,
mine's definitely not.
yeah, yours is yeah. When people think eroticism, they're gonna be like, "Yep, I'm gonna listen to that book
I'm gonna
instead."
read that one. Yes, and I
It's more like, "Oh, look, it's Augustine Poe, dark, mysterious, right?
well,
Sad."
yeah, but like you laugh, but like when you start breaking these audiobooks up into chapters and putting them out for sale on like platforms like OnlyFans, I mean, there's a serious amount of revenue to be generated by doing something that's fun anyway. So
Have you done that? Have you gotten that far with putting them on like OnlyFans
I've
or anything like that?
I've not, but I've created the OnlyFans account, and I mean you can go subscribe to it. There's no content on it. I haven't made it, and I think my biggest drawback is, or my biggest setback maybe is not trusting the female voices that I'm voicing. That's the when I listen to it back, it doesn't quite sound right.
So there's a very subtle, and I did a lot of research on this too, because I have a lot of female characters. And one of my books, it's Ghost of a Promise. It
Hmm.
it is about a man named Jackson. Hello, my name is Jackson. Welcome to Ghost Hunter series.
Hmm.
And his mom was from Colorado. His father was from England.
Right.
but he had two accents. So when he wasn't on the show, he would drop his accent. His love interest was Ava. So since Jackson had a higher voice, I took Ava's down and made it more, a little bit deeper, a little softer. So just that subtle difference, so you could know like when
Mm.
Jackson was speaking versus when Ava was speaking. And there were also seven other women voices inside of the script. It was really
Mm.
meant for a an ensemble cast,
Right,
in my
right, right. Dude, it's so much easier when you have a script as opposed to just reading it from a book. It's
yeah.
so much easier when it's laid out like a script. And what I have to do is I have a little spreadsheet up on the screen while I'm reading, and then I can see which character I gave which accent to, so I don't overlap and get the accents backwards. Um, because I've done that
That's
before.
I've you know what? I've done that too. I've gone through a whole book and gotten to the end where you discover, oh wait, that person had a different accent or they're from a
Mm.
different location,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes, yes, yeah.
And that's why it's so important, especially like with audiobooks, to read all the way through
Hmm.
because they'll leave little clues and hints. John, who was from Philadelphia,
Right,
you know,
right, right. And
right?
and and I do that, and then I read the paragraph, and then I decide how it's going to sound, and then I attempt it. I don't just read the book. you know,
You know,
it's
well, I tried to. I tried that at first, but I made one mistake on that. I had to reread the whole book. I had to re-narrate it, and I remember those are some of the lessons that I learned in that process
mhm,
of doing that. But the editing portion of it, I did everything on that. It became like a one-man production book, audiobook production shop.
mhm.
And it was some of the most formative times of my life because I was married. I was uninspired because marriage, after a few years, it'll dull out if you don't stay on the same page.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I
you
mean,
can actively say that.
marriage is a complex machine, and yeah, it needs every so often it needs a couple of good little screws to fix it.
Yeah, and those screws are what are they? Date night. They're
Hmm.
doing something for yourself.
Hmm.
As the biggest complaints that
Like,
I had in my man circle was with dads was, yeah, my wife is always complaining that she's doing everything.
hmm.
Okay, so or she never has time to do anything for herself, right? And
Hmm.
those are those little screws that you have to put them on a checklist because if you're not getting your needs met and she's not getting hers met, nobody's going to be happy in
Nobody's
that.
happy. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, and it can't be one way or the other. So
And
yeah, it's
it is hard, like to make that time and to do that. It's very difficult. Not just being married, like any long term relationship, you have to remember I got to set aside time for this. Otherwise, it doesn't get done, and otherwise the screws don't get put in place.
yeah, and it's interesting too because what you want at the beginning of the relationship may change in the middle of it,
Hmm.
and you're constantly having to do an update, almost like a relationship check-in, and say, "Hey, how are we doing? Are we still doing okay? Do we like doing what we're doing here?
Hmm.
Are you happy and fulfilled with your life?" So, is there an expectation of an end, right? Or and when I say that, I mean there's always like a goal line. I was dating someone, and there seemed to be like this mad jaunt to the finish line, and that finish line was move in together, get married, go on vacations, buy another house, raise kids, and I was like, that's not what I want at this point, and
Nope.
that's hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's a tough proposition.
It is, especially coming from well, I've got nobody up in my shit. Like that is tough because you're giving up like you're giving up one part of life to go and start a fresh part of life that is it's more appealing in one way, absolutely. So
Sure.
you got to weigh that up, but
Yeah, I'm not bitter against anything. I'm just not open to it like I used to be because you know it's like I've met people. It's funny you meet people and they've been together 20 years and they're like, I wouldn't go and do that again.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
It's,
you got a few grey hairs, mate. You've learned a thing or two. That's
yeah.
that's just how it is. So yeah. Anyway, shit. Where were we going with this? What's next?
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. No. No. It's great. We're talking about everything on the podcast today. So,
That's what it's about.
um, yeah, it really is. Development. It's been a while. Like it's been a couple years since we've talked, and during that time, and you too. I mean, I know you've been busy. You've been very quiet. Like I went looking for you on social media, And I was like, oh, there's Sam. And I saw you, but it's like, it's funny how you get these random thoughts about people in your head. You're like, I wonder how they're doing,
Hmm.
right? Um, I think at the time that I found you though, you were madly in love. So I was like, oh, let me just circle back to him. Um, right. So it's really great to connect, and I'm glad that we're here because last couple of years they've been work. They've
Oh
been
God,
transfer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
You know?
like, I go quiet when I don't have a lot to say. Um, you know, part of it's fear of judgment. There was a lot of fear involved in closing down Texas Media Foundry. And there was a lot of fear of judgment involved when we went so deep into Soapbox and the funding didn't materialize and the investors backed out. That crushed me. Well, how do you say that out loud? And so, yeah, I'm going to go be quiet. I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone. I'm going to figure it out. And then you see, February, I folded everything up. So I'm going all in on small business surgeon, and the results have been incredible. Like, I don't know why I didn't do this 2 years ago, except for confidence and paranoia.
Yeah, and that's we were talking a little bit about that before we got started, and that's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're in relationships we don't belong in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have friends around us or people or influences that we don't need to have in our lives.
Yeah,
And it's
and
the answer right there,
we can be
right?
reluctant to let those go, though. I mean, especially long-standing relationships. I mean, my partner in the Media Foundry, Tex, he and I didn't part. We didn't part at war. It was very amicable. It was just like this isn't the way either one of us wants to go, like in the future, But it was still a very very difficult decision for me to say to him, look, this is not my direction anymore. That relationship's a 15-year relationship, and we worked together for 7. So that's a tough one.
It's like a marriage almost. And nobody wants to admit failure. Nobody does.
I
But it's also great to keep going. I think there's a dichotomy there of the human spirit that exists,
I,
right?
I think we did a wonderful job with Media Foundry. I don't think it failed. I think it was that when the investment for the soapbox project that we worked on, it was such a big project, then it was our only client, and when that investment collapsed, like, we both looked at each other and said, right, do we want to build this again and go out and get 15 more clients and do this again? And I'm like, this is a really good stopping point for me to step off this and actually go and because I've been wanting to be the small business surgeon forever. I mean, I've been doing private consults with clients over 2 years. I've just been working them around the Media Foundry stuff and around the real estate stuff, and my passion was not being like fulfilled. So I just folded those others up. I don't consider it a failure. I consider it a solid foundation for the next step. And dude, if everybody's businesses can be like that, it'd be great lessons, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't compare it to a failure. I'm just saying the actual act of quitting
Oh yeah.
as failure,
Hmm.
right? That's why I keep doing what I do. I've had people look at me and doubt me and go, "Hey, why are you still doing that? Why would you do that? How come you're so faithful to this?" And it's because I'm not a quitter. And I also know that if I'm going to leave anything or end or terminate or whatever you want to call it or separate,
Hmm.
I'm going to leave it better than I found it.
Yes, that's why we get
I
along.
I have to.
Yeah.
Yes. That's where the commitment is. So to end it, it's heartbreaking. And even if it's like that's a choice. It's like I know I need to go on that path, but this is going to break my heart if I stop now because I know if I leave this in a mangled mess that I haven't fulfilled my initial intention here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I approach life like that as a father and as a son and a brother, and it's like where can I make improvements? Work, right?
Hmm.
As a contractor, somebody who builds businesses, makes connections. I've been liberated, Sam, in the last 2 years because I finally have gotten that concept of have the discussions with no expectations.
Right. Right.
And I'm happy that you've got all of your stuff set up. I'm happy that you are narrating your books because that's what it was. It was a conversation of like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" You're like, "I want to do this." I was like, "Okay, great." And we talked about it and you've been doing the work.
Well, you said
Like,
go. You said go do it. Like,
Yeah,
you
right?
know?
Yeah, mission accomplished, right?
Hmm.
It's like, I'll tell you everything you wanna know, and now you gotta go do it, and so when I started seeing that, I was like, "That's fantastic." Sam is like, I felt there's a validation inside of me, right?
Right.
Because when you share your knowledge and wisdom with somebody and they don't do anything with it, you're like, "Oh, okay."
Mm.
Right? Did I waste my time? No. It's just practice for the one person that's going to listen to you and take action. So, I salute you, sir, for taking action. I can't
I
wait.
mean, look, it got to the point where, I'm doing this for clients all day long. And, I do borrow from Build Your Machine. I borrow heavily from EOS. And I do this for my clients all the time. And I'm just sitting there going, "You're an idiot. Do it for yourself. Like, do it for
Mhm.
yourself. Like, literally, put yourself through the exact same program you put your fucking clients through." Like, all right, so about a month ago, I started like building my machine. Like, that's why you see all the video content. That's why you see all the podcast content. It's why you see like everything I'm doing. It's why you see me go work out in the mornings. All that. It is not necessarily for my benefit. It's so that the people that are my clients will see that doing this shit is possible. It is hard work, but it takes commitment and time, and it does work. And so, yeah, that's why why I didn't hire myself as my own coach a while back. I'm not sure, but now I treat myself as my own client, and it's wonderful.
Ooh,
Mm.
man, that's some gold, Sam.
Well,
That is gold.
they get to see it in real time, like they do, and that's the trade off. They go, oh shit. Well, if this guy can do it, then I could certainly do it because I don't sound nearly as silly as he does.
Right. And you know what's great about that too? That confidence. Like, you can't bottle confidence.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, but the way to get that confidence is to do the work,
You do the
get the
reps, yeah,
experience, right? Make the
yeah.
mistakes and then help someone else. And it's a real simple concept, but we just overlook the simple things because our brains, we just can't get out of our own way sometimes.
We all suffer from it, man. It shocks me that my clients won't reach out and make calls to their top 25, and yet I'm sitting here with no top 25 list, and I'm like, wait a minute, like,
That's
but
right.
we do. When I built the real estate company, first thing I did, top 25 list, boom. When I built the
Yeah.
media company, first thing I did, boom. I'm just sitting here going, I should probably do that. I'm telling my clients to do it. It's a bit hypocritical. And then the minute I start reaching out to my top 25, boom, half of them know who I am, and I close, I close podcast guests, and it's great, man. It's great, and you just have to have that confidence in yourself to know that it's okay to reach out. But man, we all do it. We all go, oh, I don't think he'd want to talk to me. I don't feel confident enough to hit that guy up. Maybe I'll just skip it for today. And then before you know it, you've skipped it for a week, and then you're on another coaching call with me, and I'm just going, guys, what the fuck?
Right. But there's almost like that imposter syndrome that creeps up because you didn't do it yourself and you're like,
Yeah,
oh. And that was the conclusion I came to. I was like, hey, you've got so much knowledge, wisdom, and experience, and people have like held you up. Ryan Stewman's been my biggest supporter just in
yeah,
terms of allowing me access into his network. And I came in as a client too, on a lower scale. But you know what? I kept doing the work, and then he invites me to his company, and I have access to all this wealth of knowledge that people would love. Like, they're saving their hard-earned money to get into the
right.
network.
It's an
You know,
incredible group, dude. Incredible network.
it really is. So I'm like, I owe it to myself and to everybody else that I served and to continue to serve
Hmm.
inside of that network to really know how to build my machine inside and out so I can be of a higher value to them
Absolutely.
and help them move the needle. Oh, you're stuck. Where are you at? Okay, let me come in. Okay, then we have to do this, and this. I'm going to walk with you, but I'm going to push you. You have to do the work.
Have,
And but it's great too, though. And I think that passion and that drive and that desire and that support comes from the place, and it makes you a better supporter of that client that you might have
hmm.
if you've done the work yourself. And
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
that's
And
what I've
and for me, it's so I can say, hey, look, here's what happens when you do. This is it. This took me 3 months. This is what the 6 month progress was. But I notice a lot of questions in Apex about what do I do, and I'm like, well, where are you at in building your machine? And they're like, oh, well, I didn't watch the videos. I'm like, well, You might want to start on day one. I mean, I don't know. So I run out of polite ways to say watch the videos.
Yeah, it really is, and it's like you can even draw a big red arrow to it and
Mhm.
watch the videos. It's even during the onboarding process. A lot of my position with them is my title is Chief Happiness Officer, but what does that mean? At the end of the day, all the questions are answered, all the services are fulfilled,
Mhm.
and it's an ongoing relationship because it's personal evolution, right? You evolve, you get the basic stuff done, great. The thing that held you back here at this mindset's not going to hold you back at the next one,
Yep.
but you're going to have an other limiting beliefs and mindset around something else you want to achieve, right?
Well,
How do you get to that next level? And
it's like the video game. It's like you got to do that first level, beat the first boss. You get the tools from beating the first boss, and you carry those tools into the second level. And then when you face the next boss, you get more tools, and like that equates so well to business, man.
it really does. And there's a method to it, and it's proven. And if you can do that, rinse and repeat, that's all you have to do. And it collapses time for you. You don't have to spend the 12 years or 20 years that any
No,
individuals.
it.
Like my collective experience is the thing that helped qualify me to get into Apex.
Hmm.
Me being a self-starter and deciding to narrate my own audiobooks and do voiceover work from my home on the weekends and build a mobile DJ side hustle was the thing that qualified me to get on the big stage.
Right.
So I could come into a room with other entrepreneurs, and I've had to build my own machine and dive into other things so I could keep growing with people like you. So I can keep growing with other successful entrepreneurs. I needed to know the struggle
It.
of, hey, can I make payroll? Hey, can I afford to hire more people?
Hmm.
And I say that from the standpoint of like that was a real thing for me. Like I put my son on payroll in my company. We produce podcasts and audiobooks, but I made the mistake of putting him on payroll before I should have put him on on a
Hmm.
salary
Yeah.
before I should have put him on salary.
Hmm.
So like that painful, just a simple lesson of like, holy smokes, I overextended myself. Now I'm
Hmm.
digging into my pocket to make sure he gets paid every 2 weeks.
We've all made that mistake, pal. You know,
Oh,
and there's nothing worse than scratching your head and going, well, where the fuck's payroll coming from this week? Like, but there's nothing that'll make you call leads and work phones either. Quite like that pressure, like it's
oh
because it's
man.
that was one of looking back when COVID came around. Financially, I'd have been better off if I shut my businesses down, walked away, and went to the beach for a year. I lost
Oh,
so much fucking money keeping people employed. Like it's so much because I felt like no, this is the right thing to do. They don't have any way to pay their bills. We're gonna get through this as a fucking team. But like, truth speaking, like I'd have been better off shutting it down at the start of COVID and going to the beach for a year, and I could have come back and still had more money. Like that was a very expensive time. But as a entrepreneur, you are responsible for the livelihoods of the people that work for you. Like the buck stops with you. You can't just turn around and be like, "Sorry guys, you're fucked." Like, no, it's they work for you. They are giving their lives, the times of their lives, to help build their dreams and your dreams. It is your fucking responsibility to make sure they pay their house payment, even at the detriment of your own savings account.
amen. That couldn't have been said any better. And that was the thing that I was so happy that I had evolved to that point so I could make a good decision as a steward of that business.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, a business is not a person, but it supports all the people in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Including the clients, the employees, the contractors.
Right.
It gives them that peace of mind. I mean, if you think about it, it's not a hard it's not a hard it's not as hard as you think it is, but you have to be tough.
I
And
just I don't think people think how hard it is. It's really fucking hard.
that's right,
I mean,
right.
when you're learning, if you don't have a mentor, you will hit every single mistake that we all make. The best thing I did was paying for coaching and paying for mentors to help me, because it's not that I wouldn't have figured it out, but like you said earlier, dude, it collapses time. It it injects experience into you, and it cuts down the amount of time it takes you to learn it, and it cuts down the amount of stupid mistakes that you have to pay for, because there is an idiot tax in business, and it's quite a steep tax.
It can be very expensive. Sometimes it's at the detriment of your integrity,
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem, your bank account, like you
Mm-hmm.
said.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful this journey that that we get to go on every day, and we do have the flexibility, right? If you want to take Thursday off, take Thursday off. You
Yep.
might have to come back later on the next day, or maybe work another 18 hours the day after.
Hmm.
But if it's worth it for your peace of
Dude,
mind, you can do that.
man, sometimes I'm working till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and sometimes I take the day off. That's just, I mean, there's never a day off, but there might be an hour's worth of tasks to do. But like, pretty much, pretty much I work most evenings. Then I added school to the list, so obviously that's keeping me busy too. So,
What are you studying in school?
oh shit, artificial intelligence and machine learning in business applications. It's a postgrad program from UT.
This is
So,
brilliant. I'm glad you're doing that. Part of my just the last 8 months for me has been that deep dive into um, AI as well. A lot of it's not in a formal classroom setting, but I've been going in and buying softwares and
hmm.
testing them out like
Oh,
a
me too.
scientist.
Isn't it
Yeah,
fun? Isn't it fun? It's
it's
so much
great.
fun. Like
Yeah, it's great.
this entire content is our avatars talking, and nobody has a clue. It's all AI.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is John Smith, right? It, yeah, I've played with some of those, and it's funny when you talk about AI. There's kind of a disconnect, and especially as it pertains to your voice.
Hmm.
Um, do not think that the robots are going to do all the work for you.
No.
There's an element. This creates another demand. So also, this is where there's still an opportunity. The robots are going to come along, and people are going to love it, and everybody's going to use it.
Hmm.
People are still looking for authenticity.
Hmm.
Still looking for a genuine connection with other human beings. You cannot replace that. You cannot recreate that except between two human beings. So, as you're going through that process, for example, let's take audiobooks. I was doing some research and I learned that ACX, which is owned by Amazon and
Hmm.
distributes through Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, will not allow for AI generated voices to be used.
Oh, that's great. That's great news.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is a wonderful thing because if that were the case, it would level a whole industry. Number
Oh,
one,
no doubt. Yeah.
right? Number two, and not saying that they won't do it in the near future, but the AI has not gotten to that place where it's you can still tell it's AI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just out of curiosity, I recreated my voice, and it was quite good. But you could definitely tell immediately it wasn't me. You know.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, and it's like, and you probably see those too, even with images and things like that. Protecting your image and protecting your name and your brand and your voice, all of those things are going to be very important um, for many reasons in the near future that you can't even conceive of right now. A lot of people will use it for dark things,
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
frame people, dark psychology, manipulation.
Hmm.
It'll be used to frame people. If you watch, especially with news, that's always been, one of the things. It's like,
Yeah, but like the the Germans and the Russians were putting out Photoshop pictures in World War Two. You know, like the altering of news and stuff and propaganda is nothing new. It's just that this is going to make it pretty much impossible to differentiate between what is real and what's not. So I
yeah.
I don't know. I wonder there might be a whole lot of blackmail videos start to come out. Like there was one the other day manipulated the stock market by $500 billion by posting a picture of the Pentagon having been bombed, and it was a complete AI picture. It ran around Twitter faster than because a lie will run around the world before the truth has even got its boots on. Um,
Ooh,
that's a
oh man.
Terry Pratchett quote right there, but it's very true. And the lie ran around the world, and the stock market blipped just like that, $500 billion in 2 hours, and then it went back to normal. So could you imagine if somebody was doing that on purpose?
That's it's if it's been put in a movie, it can happen. So I
Well,
believe that's possible.
I
But
do,
we're
do,
in new times.
I said we would. I said we wouldn't go to conspiracy theories, so we won't. However, if you watch the film Kingsman: The Secret Service, have you ever seen that movie? It's
I love it. All of
yeah.
them.
Well, the first one from 2015. It's that British spy movie, and it's Samuel L. Jackson's the baddie. Go and watch it again, and take from 2020 to current date into context when you watch the plot of that movie. You really should, and then share your feedback. And, you guys listening too, watch Kingsman, the first Kingsman movie, and because they've got this little chip that they've got. They got this little SIM card they're giving away free in the phones, and they activate a frequency, and everybody goes mad, starts killing each other when they activate this frequency, and it's because they got to depopulate the planet, and here's how they're going to do it. Like it's pretty spooky shit when you watch it back, but like that's something hanging out when Nina taught me. Like nobody just sits there and like invents a movie. It's all based on stuff they've seen, and then a fabrication maybe on top of that, taking artistic license and stuff. But every single movie has its roots in the truth, which is
Yeah, it really does. And it's everything to do with what politics, social,
hmm
so the current theme of what's happening in society, and then you got technology, right? You've got a multitude of finance. That's another one too,
hmm
right? So you've got all of those themes that are present, but it's all programming and conditioning. So,
oh yeah,
um,
yeah,
but it's great, procuring the most purest message that you can. Start with authenticity and being yourself, and removing all of those things that don't belong, all of those self doubts, like Sam, you had mentioned earlier, like not having that confidence or believing you can, and it's as
yeah.
simple as that.
But like,
You and I share that. I struggled with that too
but
for a long time.
one thing I found out by meeting successful people is that half of them are quote unquote successful, and it's just what you see on the outside, and all of them put their trousers on the exact same way that you and I do. They
That's right.
they've all got the same fears. They've all got the same imposter syndrome. Even guys worth tens of millions of dollars will sit there and have imposter syndrome and be afraid to speak on a podcast or speak on stage or any of that kind of stuff. So it's very it's very interesting that the only thing that separates us is the numbers in our checking accounts. We've all got those fears built in, and it applies to every single level that I've ever run across.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you talk about that, and after having I've officially had my podcasting journey. I started producing podcasts because somebody went to jail that was on the team, and we're getting out. Like we're like, hey, where's that guy? Is he okay? And we're not judging him because he went to jail. He got caught up, and we're like, where's the producer for the podcast? We're like, we can't get hold of him. So Stewman came to me and said, hey man, can you produce this? I'm like, yep, I sure can. And I took it on because
hmm
that wasn't one of my duties or jobs, and it was already covered, and they were working on other stuff. But jumped in. I've been producing the Rewire podcast for close to 3 years now.
Oh wow!
Um,
Well done.
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So I went in, I tightened it up, and I found a lot of idiosyncrasies and things that were missing, and pops and clicks, and kind of
hmm
cleaned up the audio. And but one thing I will tell you is, doing that was the seed for me to create this iteration of my business. And I did that for a year. I acquired some clients, probably made it up to like maybe 10 clients. And then I got to the place where I hit the ceiling like most businesses
hmm
do. You're a solopreneur, doing it as a side hustle, and you
Yeah.
can't go any further. I was working, long hours, long days, and doing all the technical stuff too, the technician work, and handling the billing and everything that
Right.
goes along with.
Right.
And I was editing a podcast one day, and I found this guy that was on there. He's a musician, Jeremy Schreifels,
Yeah, I love
and
Jeremy. He's been
Jeremy's
on the
great.
show. He's been on the show.
Yeah, yeah, Jeremy.
hmm
He and I have a Minnesota connection because he lives in Minnesota, but he's also a drummer, right? He's a
hmm
musician, a producer. He does everything. He was producing a Christmas album in the fall, but I
Yeah.
basically got on a call with him like we got on and said,
hmm
"Hey man, you're leaving money on the table. Let me show you how you can make money with podcast editing." He's like, "Okay, great." With no intention of anything else. I just wanted to meet him, and he's an Apex.
Right.
And next, we struck up a friendship, and we just started transacting and doing business, and we've grown our company quite a bit, and it's been amazing. We officially started January 1st,
hmm
and we were moving our way to becoming a very profitable company very quickly.
Well,
And
congratulations, man. It's
yeah, thank you. I think it's again, it goes back to collapsing time. When you get
hmm
the right talent, the right people with the right mindset in the right room, and they have mentors, right? People
that's
like
it.
you
Yeah.
that can advise them on where they need to go and how they need to not make the mistakes they made.
Yeah.
That's when the magic happens.
My man, I've said this before on the show, and I hope people pay attention. But it is harder to make the first $10 profit than it is to make the first $10,000 profit. It's building the model and making the profits the hard part. Once you've got it profitable, scaling it is much easier. Getting it profitable is the challenge. So well done, man. Well done.
Thank you. We're excited and we keep working. This week we've probably had more appointments than anything. And I say that from the standpoint of we're not doing the active sales model. We don't have it perfected.
Hmm.
There's still stuff that's a mess in the back that we haven't even created our operating agreement.
Right. No,
And that's
dude, nothing's
right out of the
nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect. But like progress is progress is progress, man. You know?
that's
And
imperfect action, you know?
yeah, I mean, because otherwise you'd just be sitting around going, "Hey, man, we should start this company." Like,
Yeah.
you're already further down the road than that. So you're the epitome of just being 1% better today than you were yesterday. And maybe tomorrow the operating agreement will get done. Whatever, as long as I'm 1% better, we can keep moving this forward.
Amen. Imperfect action. The moment you think something, make sure you do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way it's going to stick, and it'll stay there as a reminder because you took that action. You validated yourself in that moment. It's like, here's the thought. Here's what you get. Here's your
Mm-hmm.
gift for the day.
Mm-hmm.
You keep asking the universe for things, they show up. But if you keep swatting them away by not doing the work,
Yep.
then that opportunity is going to go to somebody else, and they're going to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree. All right, Danny, man, this has been the fastest hour ever. This was a no note podcast. We have just like completely run through it. I haven't asked you a single damn question. Um, but my man, I've really really enjoyed our time together. I will ask you a couple of questions before we get off. Okay.
Okay.
So, as Chief Happiness Officer of Apex and as a guy with a few grey hairs and a lot of life experience, if you could reach back to yourself at 20 years old, or if you could talk to the stereotypical 20-year-old that we run across, what's one piece of advice that you could give them to put in their pocket and take away from the show?
I would have gone through and developed more skills. I
Mm.
would gone to tech school, but it never crossed my mind. Hey, maybe I should go be a plumber or an electrician or do something in a very short burst period of time. Um, I would have acquired more skills faster.
Yeah. Wow. That's strong. Dude, you know my mom, she always used to say, make sure you've got plenty of strings on your bow.
Ooh,
Yeah. Like, because if one snaps, you got another skill, you can back it right up with that. And my fallback skill was always construction. And then, now I'm at a point where my fallback skill, is law. That's my fallback. So I'm okay. But like that was another string to my bow when I was in my 20s. That's what I wanted to do. And now I'm putting an artificial intelligence and machine learning string on my bow, so I can be in those conversations and be in those rooms. So, dude, that is some excellent, excellent advice. All right, I got one more question for you, Danny. For those of the listeners that have enjoyed hanging out, as I have today, I certainly have enjoyed it. Where can we find you on social media? Where can we follow along with you? And where can they learn more about your podcasting and audiobook services?
fantastic. And thank you, Sam, again for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All
A
mine,
really
sir.
huge honor. So you can follow me on social media, Danny Galvez. I happen to have an AI generated picture. It's probably the most elite version of myself and probably what I'm going to look like in the near future. So it gets a good rise out of the ladies. So, and then also on Instagram at Danny Galvez, the number 2, you can
Mhm.
find me there. And then you can go to monumentalvoicemedia.com. That's where you can learn all about our podcasting and some of the audiobook production projects that we're on right now too,
Brother,
and future.
that is perfect, man. We will put the links in the show notes. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you, man. And guys, that's Danny Galvez. Please be sure, go to his socials, show him some love, follow along, and tell him that the Small Business Surgeon sent you. Danny, thanks for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. Ta ta.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the show for today. Please go show Danny some love. If you've enjoyed the show, run over and leave us a 5-star review. It really does help to drive the listener numbers up and spread the message. All right, that's going to do it from me for today. You'll be good, stay safe, and I will see you this week for Friday Fire.
This has been the Small Business Surgeon Podcast. If you've made it this far, you clearly like it. So go on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. This helps people find the show and spread the good word. share with friends, and follow us at Small Business Surgeon on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you for your follow-up next week.